What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for joining me here. I'm going to break down a scene from the 2018 film Black Panther, made and produced by Marvel and Disney. My name is Johnny Media. The scene I'm going to break down is one of the more important scenes, in my opinion, of the entire film. Kind of sets the tone of the film and how it's going to go. I'm recording this through Zoom. So it'll be choppy, fragmented sections of the film. That's just the way that Zoom deals with compression. That's how they compress their video. Not a big deal though. It'll actually kind of help. I'll be pausing and slowing down and probably going back and forth as needed anyway. So without further ado, we'll jump in. Just for a little context, if you've never seen the movie, which it's great. I don't know why you wouldn't see it. But if you haven't, I'll break it down for you a little bit. There will be spoilers as well as I go through this as a scene breakdown, as I allude to different instances of foreshadowing. But the film follows the guardian of Wakanda, King T'Challa, played by the late Chadwick Boseman, who passed away recently. It follows him as he battles outside forces that attempt to steal his position as king, challenge his worldviews, and threaten to steal their precious metal, which is vibranium. A little backstory on where T'Challa is from, which is Wakanda, is a fictional, reclusive, and secretive, highly advanced African nation, and they possess a precious metal that came from space called vibranium. Comic books, you gotta love them. Black Panther is based off of a comic book made and distributed by Marvel Comics. The scene that I'm following the scene that I'm analyzing is going to be following three main characters, which is T'Challa, played by Boseman, Okoye, played by Danny Gurira. I'm gonna butcher all these names, by the way. I apologize. She's the leader of the Dora Milaje, which is the royal security for Wakanda and the king. And then Nakia, which is played by Lupita Nyong'o. Again, butchering the last name. And she is a warrior, self-sufficient individual who, through audio cues up to this point and dialogue, you find out is a previous love interest and still love interest of T'Challa. So this is the beginning of the scene that I'm breaking down. The three have gotten wind that an enemy of Wakanda, a former thief who stole vibranium and killed members of Wakanda, is setting up a deal with some mysterious buyers, American buyers in South Korea. Here we see the very beginning, written out in Wakandan, the area that they're coming to. So this is the opening scene. It's an aerial shot view over South Korea with their the city's immense, striking city skyline with neon lights everywhere. You see towering buildings that we're flying towards, and it gives you a sense of the environment that we're flying into in this conflict. So we'll start from here. And you can see the Wakandan has now transformed, here in the foreground, has now transformed into English. So now it's implying the high-tech nature of the tools the Wakandans have as a highly advanced community that they can change and translate on the fly, but also that they understand a lot of different languages. So now we're flying over these two very bright neon skyscrapers towards this bridge in the background in this extreme aerial long shot. We had boarded a jet of the Wakandans, one of their advanced technical, almost alien-looking jets, and now we are flying that and focusing towards this bridge. As you can see. And then that transition, that movement, that flow from the sky, where you're flying in a plane, first person as the character's point of view, towards the bridge, sets the viewer's experience, to which we know that transition of flying to car is less jarring. It enables us to feel like we've moved from the air to a car on that bridge, and now we're moving that action, following that action to this vehicle, driving in a new area of the city, which is much more densely populated, much less bright neon lights, though we still have a few, and very narrow roads with a lot of people, a lot of hustle and bustle going on around you. It looks like we're pulling into some sort of vendor or night market. And we'll let this play a little more as we follow from that aerial shot. So we were in the sky before. This is bringing us down into the car level. It's a close-up of the hood of the car, or the roof of the car, I should say. And then it'll go back. It stays, but pans so that we can see the movement of the car. So we're following the line of the car as all these individuals around them go about their business and make purchases, do what have you, walk through this alley. The other aspect of this scene that I like to point out is it's giving us a sense of where we are. So we saw this very big, bustling, bright city, giving you a feeling of your New Yorks, your Parises, your Los Angeleses, where it's a busy, established city. And now we're in a more personable area. So we don't have too much context of what's going on here, other than it looks like it's some sort of night market. But if we look closer at the scenery that we're presented with here, you can actually see in the background here, very fancy, very nice, very expensive cars mixed in with all of these very humble vendor markets and stalls and kiosks, along with very humble looking everyday average citizens walking around them. So that gives us that contrast of there's more here than what meets the eye. There's more to it. There's another layer of this market of some sort. So it's already setting that idea that we're somewhere nefarious as the camera stays stationary and follows the action of the vehicle moving forward. So now we cut to a vendor, and this is a vendor helping a customer. You can see them shopping, it looks like for fish. It gives us another instance of, okay, so this is definitely some sort of night market, some sort of market where people are shopping and doing everyday, maybe bargain shopping for their households. And now we jumped to the characters, so 2 jump cuts to give us a sense of we've moved around a lot so far. They're now parking their vehicle, and as they're getting out, we can see they open their doors. If I could go back just a tiny bit. They open their doors at the same time, if you can watch this. They open in unison, but we can see the power dynamic at play here. So as they're all getting out of the car, we can see Okoye is the first out. She's instantly up and moving. She's standing already while the other 2 were lingering a little longer. And she's making a motion towards, like heading in camera angle towards the other 2. She's the head of the royal security. So you get that sense of this individual is all about security. They're ready. They're already focused and going to go. And then we have the little power dynamic between the other two characters, Nakia and T'Challa, where they linger a little longer. And you can see them rising roughly the same time, though T'Challa, if you watch, will actually stand up first. So T'Challa's out of the car first, though it's very quick. This sets the power of the power dynamic pretty equal between the two. And the whole film kind of goes that narrative of he sees her as his equal. He's not her king that rules over her, or he's not her king that rules over her, but he is her match. They are a union. They are a partnership. And then we'll roll a little bit further. You can see our first shot of all three out of the car, now blocked perfectly. And this is a very powerful signal and symbol. It shows the three in the colors of the Pan-African flag, which is a symbol of unity for all of Africa. This is a very intentional use of symbolism. The Pan-African flag is red, black, and green from top to bottom. And if we were to take this shot and rather than have it be vertical, if we moved it horizontal, you would actually see that the flag makeup is the same way, where Okoye at the top is the red, T'Challa's the black, and then Nakia is wearing the green. So very, very powerful symbolism, and that stays throughout the entirety of this scene. They will stay in this color order, where T'Challa is always in the middle of the red and green, so that you always have that symbolism, no matter which way you look at it, of the Pan-African flag. This is foreshadowing, of course, of the ending of the film and T'Challa's personal growth, where for centuries they were a secretive, isolated nation who feared sharing or unifying with others because it might change them or their behavior. But by the end of the film, you see the importance and need to change and unify. And this symbolism here shows us that T'Challa is already feeling that pressure, that idea is already somewhere rooted in him, if it hasn't yet manifested. This is it kind of manifesting to the surface. Apologize. So then we see a couple lingering, very quick but lingering glances of admiration and affection between these two love interests that was already established.
So quickly, and I can get this ridiculous thing off my head.
It looks nice.
And then you can hear as they're walking the complaint of the wig, the Dora Milaje. It's an honor to be a member of. It's all female, and they have to shave their head, which is a symbol of power and pride. So her having to wear a wig is against what she wants, that traditionalism that she wants to be a part of. And it's foreshadowing to a scene not too far in the future, where at the very first sign of trouble, she can use that symbol that's covering her true self as a weapon, and she gets rid of that wig as quickly as she possibly can. I'm gonna go back a step because there's some really cool blocking happening in the scene as well. So starting from here, when they're getting out of the car, I missed it, but some individuals walk in front of the screen.
This way.
Through this whole scene,
We're
seeing people in the background,
ridiculous thing off my head.
moving in front of the camera at all angles,
back and forth,
clearing, like blocking, getting it.
It's a disgrace.
Very, very chaotic and fast. And the entire time, we're just tracking at eye level with the three main characters, just following them through the whole thing. even with all this chaos and distraction happening around them, they never deviate. They don't move off their path. They're moving straight forward. Very gives you a symbol in the idea that they're very focused. They have an idea of what they need to get done. They're going to get it done. And it also establishes them as a force to be reckoned with. The world is moving around them, but can't disrupt them, can't interrupt with what their mission is and what their goals are. And then we get this cut from the main character's eyes to this merchant, this vendor who's we see selling fish to a average looking couple. And then in the background, you can see blue tarps everywhere. There's a blue tub. She's using a blue bag. So there's blue in a lot of it to kind of hide the eye from something that's going to pop up later, which is this blue tarp isn't simply there to keep the fishy waters or fish oils away. It's going to be a main aspect of the scene, as is the character back here who's out of focus, who we can't really see, we're not supposed to pay attention to. He's supposed to blend into the background.
Sophia.
So then we cut back, cut back to the three main characters. They're walking up, Okoye looking nervously at Nakia, almost like she's in the position that she's not used to. She's the leader. She runs her team. And in this situation, she's a fish out of water at a fish market, essentially, is the feeling you're supposed to get from her through this entire run, this entire sequence. But this shot especially really shows how uncomfortable this whole situation makes her feel. And then we see from the vendor's view of them walking up, we see Nakia welcome and say hello to a vendor she apparently knows.
Yeah, Chuma.
We get the recognition, the eye level shot, looking back at where we were just looking. She sizes up the other characters off screen. We now see her where she was looking. This is the eye line contact of where she was looking. She was sizing up these two characters while recognizing a familiar face. And now, as she's speaking, we are getting the point of view of the vendor as Nakia is talking to her and letting her know made up story for the two, of course, as they're under, it's a covert mission. They're in disguise for a reason. But as she's explaining that dialogue, that backstory, we're receiving it as the individual she's speaking to. And now as the vendors responding to that dialogue, it's role reversal. So we as the viewer, we're constantly the one that's being talked to in this scene. It's very rarely, it's not at all really, it's for a few seconds here and there, so that the cuts aren't so jumpy and meshy, but we're always the one that the dialogue's coming to. We're always receiving the dialogue, putting us in that position of we're the one that's being spoken to. So then we get the little lightheartedness of the look between the two as she continues to try and sell them on being allowed into whatever's going on here. We then get an action follow, but it's also an eye line. She looks back and nods to the gentleman we mentioned before, who is in the background of her stall. He stands very quickly from a seating position, very obedient, pops right up and stands up. Then we get the grateful look in a thank you, a verbal thank you in Korean from our friend Nakia here. T'Challa's looking impressed and happy. And then Okoye, who's, again, a fish out of water, looking not trustworthy at this individual who sells fish. So we get that feeling of she's still uncomfortable through the whole situation. Then we see them leave the scene from to the right of the screen in order still of the Pan-African flag. So they never break that order of green, red, or green, black, red. It's always in that order, either forward, backward, black, green, red. You get the idea. So then we get that establishing shot again. So now we're getting context of where the action is now moving. So we have an action shot that's going to follow them into this blue tarp is now moved. It's going to follow them into this vestibule, this doorway that leads into a hallway. And then jumps to that action. So we're following the action again. And then as they're coming through one doorway of uncertainty covered in blue, they're entering into the darkness. They're coming through one at a time into another doorway of green, Bastion green light, which is very easy symbolism to notice of you're ready to go. We're going to get this moving on. Let's get going. And now we've switched our perspective from facing them and following them to as if we're behind them and following them. And it's a little higher up because we're about to enter into a situation where we're in a very big area. Right now it's looking desolate, very light on the lighting, if at all. It is a Marvel action film, so there's not a lot of use of dark shadows. But this is about as dark as it gets. And it's supposed to show you that this is not an affluent hallway. This isn't some Taj Mahal. This is a stone and brick area behind a active fish market. But we'll be following the characters now from behind in this tracking shot. And then we pass through these green lights. We get basked in that green light as well as the doors open to a brand new, well-lit and very clearly affluent area. So that contrast of light and dark played big here. And then we also see that we go from a fish market vendor in fish market getup, and then that obedient servant in the same style and getup to two very well-dressed bodyguard-looking individuals with extra wands for metal detecting. So then we pass through this gateway, and then we see into the door. So it's a continuous shot from behind them. And then we have that Pan-African flag again. So if we flip this image vertically, we would have red, black, and green, which is the symbol of the Pan-African flag. So it continues to show the unity of the three of them. They're one fighting force, one voice, but also, like I said before, where T'Challa is going to go, where Wakanda is going to go. It's going to bloom from an independent African nation to a united force, willing to work together and jointly with others. And then the scene ends with this great shot over
spread out. The buyer
T'Challa's
is likely
shoulder
already here.
into a very, very affluent casino, underground casino, with suits, ties, bright lights, little use of shadows at this point. Everything looks immaculate versus the contrast of where we came to get here. And then it goes into some very amazing and well choreographed fight scenes, action scenes, sequences, funny lines, jokes, and quips. The film is a must-watch, in my opinion. It's very great. It's amazing. It uses the mix of African symbolism, colors, and sounds with modern technology and high-tech advanced technology. It's a powerful film, and one, if you haven't seen, I highly recommend. But thank you for sticking with me as I broke down that scene of them getting to this destination. Thank you so much.